This is KUHT, Houston Public Media, TV 8.
Good evening and welcome to Texas Votes, the Dewhurst-Patrick debate in the Republican Lieutenant Governor's race, presented by Houston Public Media and the Houston Chronicle in partnership with the Texas Association of Broadcasters. I'm Craig Cohen from Houston Matters. On May 27th, Texas Republicans will vote in a runoff election to choose a candidate to oppose Democrat Leticia Putte in the November general election for the office of Lieutenant Governor of our state. Tonight's debate is designed to allow you to get to know the candidates and their positions better. Now, the rules for this debate are simple. The candidates will be asked questions by our panel of journalists, KPRC TV's Mary Benton, Joe Holly from the Houston Chronicle, and Aurora Lozada, editor of La Voz de Houston. After opening statements, each candidate will be asked specific questions and given 90 seconds to answer. Then their challenger will have 45 seconds to respond. And finally, the initial candidate will be given an additional 30 seconds to close out that question. Questioning will continue, alternating between candidates as time permits. The time for responses will be closely monitored. If time allows, near the conclusion of the debate, I will ask a series of individual questions alternating between candidates. There will be no rebuttals. In the debate, each candidate will have an opportunity to make a 90-second closing statement. Now, let's meet the candidates. Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst and State Senator Dan Patrick. Candidates, please keep your opening statements to no longer than 1 minute, and we begin with the winner of our coin toss. That's Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst.
Thank you. I'm David Dewhurst, and I've been David Dewhurst ever since I was born. My lovely wife, Tricia, and our precious daughter, Carolyn, are here this evening. They're waving, and thank you all for being here. I love you. I'm living proof that Texas is the last great refuge of the American dream. My dad died. My mom worked as a secretary. Mother taught my brothers and myself faith in the Lord Jesus Christ and integrity. I'm a fighter. When I had a chance, I volunteered to serve in the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. My opponent chose not to do that. That's his business. I'm a fighter. I came back and I built a business from nothing. And as a result, I'm a successful conservative businessman. I'm running because I want to protect your liberties, our liberties from erosion because they're from God. I want to protect and improve our public education. I want to make sure that we're testing the people on welfare.
All right, I'm going to have to wrap you up there, Lieutenant Governor. And now State Senator Dan Patrick, your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dan Patrick, and I've been a senator from West Harris County since 2007. I'm an unapologetic Christian, first. I'm a bold, grassroots conservative, second, and a proud regular Republican, third. You know, for the last 2 weeks, my opponent has spent $2 million in the nastiest and dirtiest attack ads that most people have ever seen in a campaign, filled with lies and untruth and great distortions. You haven't seen one ad from him saying why he should be reelected as lieutenant governor, but we've seen it before. That's the way he campaigns. Smear his opponents and stop talking about public policy. As your lieutenant governor, I'm going to secure the border, lower your property taxes, pass school choice, campus carry, reduce or greatly reform the business tax. And as a bold conservative leader with that bold agenda, I'm not going to appoint half the Democrats to chairman of committees in the Texas Senate. It's time for change. It's time for bold conservative leadership. My name is Dan Patrick, and I look forward to spending the hour with you talking about public policy, not personal attacks.
All right, now let's begin with the first question this evening. It's from KPRC's Mary Benton, and it is for Senator Patrick.
Hi, Mary.
Good evening, Senator Patrick. When the Houston Chronicle editorial board interviewed candidates running in this spring's primary, I'm told the board was surprised at how many of your Republican colleagues expressed concern at the prospect of Dan Patrick serving as lieutenant governor. The board began to use the shorthand phrase ABP, anybody but Patrick. Are you aware of those concerns among both Republicans and Democrats? And if so, how do you explain them?
Well, first of all, Mary, they may have been friends of my opponent, I'm not sure. But the truth is, in the primary, I received 42% of the vote. The lieutenant governor received 28%. 72% of the people said, we want someone new to lead the Texas Senate. So, of course, I know no one ever gets 100% of the vote. I don't worry about the naysayers or those who fear change. There are people in this state who understand, who are conservatives, who are grassroots voters, who are hardworking folks, that we need to reduce property taxes because they can't afford to live in their homes, and they're tired of that issue not being addressed. Seniors who have paid off their home can't afford to live in their homes. People understand we need our border secured. 1,132,000 people were apprehended crossing the Texas border from 2006 to 2012. That means maybe 4 to 5 million got through. People know our border must be secure. We must secure the border so we can force Washington to pass legal immigration reform because we are a nation of immigrants. We need school choice because we have a 40 to 50% dropout rate in some of our inner city schools. And during this campaign, I'm the only candidate, Mary, who's been talking about these issues. Some people just don't want change, but it's time for change. This is a change election. We'll have a new Republican governor nominee, attorney general, ag commissioner, land commissioner, railroad commissioner, and with your help, a new lieutenant governor running for our party against the Democrats, and we'll win in November.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst.
All across the state of Texas, I've met with people over the last months and months and months, and they've talked about anybody but Dan Patrick. And I've tried to find out why. But people that know Dan Patrick move away from Dan Patrick. One of the things I saw in our polling is that if you inform both our voters about both of us, they move towards me. And that's certainly what's happening right now, where our numbers are going up and my opponents are going down. That's the reason why Mayor Castro, in the debate, 2 weeks ago, said to Dan, "You're our meal ticket back in." This is a man that you cannot rely on his word. This is a man that's proposed increasing the state sales tax and the state gasoline tax.
All right, Senator Patrick.
You know, Governor, we'll talk about taxes later. You're the one who actually proposed them. I just had a conversation. In fact, Joe Hawley wrote the article back in 2011. We'll get to those facts later. Look, folks, this is what you're going to hear tonight. Personal attacks, not public policy. In terms of the polling, on March 4th, nearly 42%, 28%. I was pleased with the people that came and listened to us and voted for us. So, in terms of the Democrats, we have a 46-29% lead over Leticia Putte, and we won that debate in San Antonio. I was a bold conservative who went into Univision to talk about illegal immigration.
Senator Patrick, I'm going to have to stop you there. You're out of time. Our next question is from Joe Hawley with the Houston Chronicle, and it is for Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst.
Governor Dewhurst, you have been Lieutenant Governor since 2003. You take a portion of the credit for the state's thriving economy, and you've sought to persuade your fellow Republicans that you are the most conservative Lieutenant Governor in Texas history. But it doesn't seem to be working either this time or in your race with Ted Cruz. Why does it seem like you're struggling to connect with Republican primary voters?
Well, probably, Joe, because I haven't met everyone, but as I meet them, just like over the last week or two, we've had the Tea Party Express endorse us, and we had not only the Clear Lake Tea Party endorse us, but we had 2 more Tea Party groups just last Sunday endorse us. At the end of the day, Ted Cruz ran a very disciplined campaign. He's been a longtime friend of mine. I think he said just the other day that we've been friends before, he liked me during our race, and we're friends today. With all due respect to my opponent, Dan Patrick is no Ted Cruz. One of the things that my opponent has talked about was the Dewhurst decade. Let me just share with you. If you start off with the Patrick decade, what have we got? I mean, let's look back over the last 10 years. What we've gotten back over the last 10 years, we got a name change. We got him coming into the Senate. We've got Rice University saying that he is the least effective member of the Texas Senate. We've got a situation in which he's proposing he's co-sponsoring bills with 28 different Democrats this past session. He co-sponsors 2 bills with Wendy Davis. And those 2 bills, one of which was DNA a sampling, having a permanent DNA registry, if you've committed a Class B misdemeanor or more, and that's fishing on a public wharf.
All right, Senator Patrick, rebuttal.
I believe that David has not connected with the voters because he's just not connected anymore. This last session, he missed about a third of the session from the Senate floor. On the night of our vote on the biggest bill of the session, the omnibus pro-life bill, he left in the middle of a 12-hour debate and went to a restaurant with his political consultant, and I'm not sure why. I don't care if he went to McDonald's and had a Happy Meal. You don't ever leave the Senate in the middle of a debate and leave your colleagues behind. And then, of course, we had the filibuster. In terms of what I have done in my time in the Texas Senate, I put in God we trust in the Senate, under God in our pledge, passed the sonogram bill, cut business taxes for businesses $1 million, passed sweeping school reform this year, the charter bill took on C-scope. I've been very active, and he gave me one of the strongest committee assignments of any senator, so he counted on me to get the job done this session.
All right, I'm going to have to wrap you up there again. Lieutenant Governor, 30 seconds.
Nice try, Dan. Nice try. Didn't miss a third. Gone for half an hour when we were doing some administrative things. The filibuster, you know, I'm proud of that evening. All four of the large pro-life organizations have endorsed me. They're proud of my leadership. And on the sonogram, Dan, I'm surprised that you brought this up. You have blotched that so badly. I've tried to get you to pass a bill that would have killed C-scope. You were on the back mic trying to work with the Democrats to kill it, and then you let the horses out.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there. Our next question is from La Voz de Houston's Aurora Lozada, and it is for Senator Patrick.
Senator Patrick.
Yes, ma'am.
You oppose a comprehensive immigration reform.
Yes.
And are adamant about securing the border first.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, with a comprehensive reform, undocumented immigrants in Texas alone would contribute an additional $100 million annually in local, state, and property taxes. Why not regulating their status now and let them increase their contribution to the state's economy?
We'll get back to his other issues later, especially going out to a restaurant to have wine and steak in the middle of the debate and saying it was an administrative meeting. I'm sorry, Governor, that's not going to fly anymore. Now, let's talk about illegal immigration. Aurora, that study was based on extending out the people who have come here illegally over a long period of time, just not the economic impact at the time. Folks, here's the position we're in. We are a nation that must secure the border, so Washington will pass legal immigration. We are a nation of immigrants, but we cannot allow people to come to this nation illegally. We must secure our border, and those who are here are caught in limbo, whether they're students in school or they're workers. We need to address that situation, but we cannot do it until we have a lieutenant governor who will secure the border. And under this lieutenant governor, it has not been done. It will be my #1 priority. I will focus on more resources, more technology, more money, more manpower. When I came in the budget in 2007, there was not $1 in the budget until I and 2 other senators stood up and said, we won't support this budget until there is money put in for illegal immigration. Let me tell you something else, Aurora, we should not do. We should not be a nation where you have to come here in the back of an 18-wheeler and live in the shadows. We have people in this country who are exploited because we allow this to happen on our border. And as Lieutenant Governor, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to secure that border because that's my role as Lieutenant Governor. Public safety is #1 priority.
Cut you off there again, State Senator. I apologize. Let's go next to Lieutenant Governor for the rebuttal. We're close.
Dan, I'm disappointed in you. You're of the two of us standing here this evening, you're the only one who's knowingly employed illegal aliens. The language that you've used on Hispanics, when all of us realize that for the Republicans to be the majority party, we have to reach out and have like-minded men and women join us. And the values that Hispanics have and that we have are generally identical. And the language which you've used is just reprehensible. When you talk about that, I'm proud that since 2007, I have led the Senate. We have appropriated $800 million. We've got high-altitude aircraft. We've got helicopters and boats. And we have just made a decision to run a 3-month surge to prove
Lieutenant
that
Governor,
we've shut the border
cut you
down.
off there. Apologize, but
Sure.
30 seconds for Senator Patrick.
Is it 30-second or 45 rebuttal?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Look, very clearly, he just said it. In 2007, he appropriated money. That's when I showed up. In 2003, there was no money appropriated for border security. In 2005, no money appropriated. Since I've been there enforcing that issue, he has appropriated money, but it's not enough. About $800 million out of about $800 billion. It's a rounding error. We have not made it a priority. We have not taken it seriously. It is time we secure the border, and as Lieutenant Governor, I will secure the border. He expanded in-state tuition, and in 2003, and in 2003, he let a bill pass that would give free health care, not emergency health care,
right.
free health care.
I'm afraid you're out of time once again. Let's
he
go
is
back.
not strong on this issue.
Senator, we'll go back now to KPRC's Mary Benton.
Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, the Immigration Policy Center estimates 300,000 Dreamers live here in Texas. You have made public education reform a top issue in your campaign while also pledging to repeal in-state tuition for undocumented students. How can you champion education on one hand, but not for these kids who have also grown up here in Texas?
Mary, I understand your question, but at the end of the day, people that are here illegally should not be receiving additional benefits. I happen to be against in-state tuition for illegal aliens. I'm against amnesty and a pathway to citizenship. But what I am for is securing our border and then addressing all of these issues as quickly as we can. Contrary to what my opponent just got through saying, ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest breakthrough in the border that we've seen ever. $800 million, high altitude spotter aircraft, helicopters, gunboats. We've got DPS on the ground. We showed in a 1 month long empirical surge, Operation Strong Safety, that we could shut down the border, illegal immigration, drugs, human trafficking, and transnational gangs. And that is exactly what we're going to prove shortly in the next little bit by running a longer surge operation and then turn it to be a permanent program. So I have led, my opponents talked and talked and talked. I've led and I've led. I've got the scars from people that have attacked me on this, but it's the right thing to do because I want to secure the border 24/7 and then send Barack Obama the bill each month.
All right, Senator Patrick.
This past session on May 20th, the last session, the LBB, the Legislative Budget Board, which evaluates our budget, said we cut border security funding. That's in the report. And we cut funding to fight criminal gangs. We have over 100,000 estimated gang members in this state illegally. The Lieutenant Governor says he's been strong on it. Yes, they did run a surge. But the difference is he cut border security spending in the last session. If he wanted to prioritize this, why didn't we fund it year-round? As Lieutenant Governor, it won't be a surge. It will be a 365-day, 24/7 operation by Texas law enforcement, sheriffs, DPS, and working with border security. It won't just be a surge. The governor, this is campaign politics, folks. I've been there with him. It hasn't happened. And again, he cut border security spending last session.
All right, we've got to wrap you up and go back to Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst.
Total bald-faced lie. Total bald-faced lie. Is your name John Kerry? You voted against last year's budget. I'm sorry, you voted for the budget before you voted against the budget. I cut the budget and it was $750 million less, but I put $122 million more in there for border security. So you voted against funding border security. And your questions about in-state tuition and the medical care is simply not true.
All right, gentlemen, just before we go to the next question, just a reminder, try as best you can to stick to the time, 90 seconds, 45, and then 30 seconds. And if you start to get a little bit off topic here, I might steer you back. So just letting you know. Next up is Joe Hawley with the Houston Chronicle with his question.
Senator, as you know, the face of Texas is changing. It's now majority-minority state with Latinos, African Americans, and other ethnic groups continuing to grow. If you're elected, what specific steps would you take to ensure that you're serving the needs of every Texan?
Sure, Joe. And as I answer your question, folks, I'm not going to sit here and tell you anything tonight that's not true. You can look at the record. Senate Bill 309 in 2005 gave free health care, not emergency, to people here illegally. That was in 2003. In 2005, he passed the bill that expanded in-state tuition. Now he's against it. And folks, go look at the record. Go look on our website at danpatrick.org. We have the facts there. He cut border security last session. That's just what the numbers were on May 20th in the budget. And yes, I voted against the budget last session, in part because it cut border security, and in part because it spent too much money everywhere else.
Senator Patrick, I'm going to interrupt you just briefly because I don't sense that you're actually answering Joe's question.
And now I'm going to answer the question for you. I'm not going to look, Craig, I know you're the moderator, and I appreciate the questions, but I'm not going to let the Lieutenant Governor stand here and mislead the voters. Period, end of story. We're going to take control of the debate and let the people know what the truth is. Now to answer your question, Joe. Okay. On the question, what will we do to attract Hispanic voters and serve everyone? Joe, here's the answer. As chair of public education this session, I passed the most sweeping reform bills in education in a decade, along with every member of the Senate and the House. And what we did is we put more focus on career and not just college, because not every one of our 5 million students needs to get a BS degree and $100,000 in debt. Everyone should have an opportunity to go to college, but everyone should come out for a job. Joe, in our inner city schools, we have a 40 to 50% dropout rate. And as chair of education, the economic prosperity of any individual is based on their education.
All right,
I'm going to make sure all of our
Senator
students
Patrick,
have that opportunity, particularly in our inner
Senator
cities.
Patrick, that's enough. Lieutenant Governor?
I'm a product of public schools right here in Houston. I understand the importance of getting a good public education. I've tried to champion improving public education over the years. That's why I was supportive of putting $3.4 billion of new money into public education last year. Hold on to our good teachers. I want to see opportunity everywhere, all around the state of Texas. I've lived in South America. I've lived in Mexico. I speak Spanish. I want to see all. Ronald Reagan had a wonderful line, "A rising tide lifts all ships." That's what I want for everyone. Hispanic, black, Asian, white, doesn't make any difference. I want the greatest education system. That's one of the reasons why I passed the parental trigger last year that gives the parents the right to close down a failing school. I want to put children first and not educators and bureaucrats.
All right, Senator Patrick, 30 seconds.
I want to go back to the education issue. I loved education. As chair of education, I appreciated him appointing me to that very important committee. But I'm going to cut the dropout rate by bringing more competition to schools. We need choice in our schools. If you're rich, you send your kids to private school. If you're mobile, you go to the suburbs. But if you're a poor African American or Hispanic parent in the inner cities, and you're in a failing school and we have 900 out of our 8,500 campuses that are rated failing, you don't have a choice. I'm going to be the Lieutenant Governor, Joe and Mary and Aurora, who reaches out to black and brown parents in our inner cities and tell them this is the Lieutenant Governor who's going to give their children the opportunity to break the bond of poverty. Because 43% of all people born in poverty in America die in poverty.
All right.
And they
we'll
die
have
in
to wrap
poverty
you up
because
there,
they
Senator
never have
Patrick.
an equal quality education.
Senator Patrick, thank you very much. Our next question is from La Voz de Houston's Aurora Lozada.
Lieutenant Governor, going back to the border security issue, you have stressed that achieving total border security is a top goal of yours, and you just recently mentioned the allocation of $800 million towards that goal, and you want more to, quote, plug the holes. But is it really feasible, geographically and economically, to establish and maintain total control over a border of more than 1,200 miles?
Yes, it is. It absolutely is. But if I may, Craig, I'm going to go back and for just a second and address something. Senator Patrick either cannot tell the truth or he cannot read a bill, and both are really bad outcomes.
All right, Lieutenant Governor, I'm actually going to ask you to answer the question first, and then
Done.
if you have some remaining time, go ahead
Done.
and use as you wish.
Yes, we can. And the way we do this is through a surge operation and by working with our local sheriff's departments. We have shown in a surge operation by doing just this, by putting DPS in on the border all across the state of Texas over a month's period. We saw meth, cocaine, we saw heroin shipments drop. We seized currency. We picked up information from the cartels, the 7 of the 8 that operate in Texas, that they want to know how long this was going to last. They wanted to start moving their product, so it works. And by adding some $4 to $5 million more per month to our appropriation, and that's what I've asked Governor Perry and Speaker Craddock and Speaker Strauss to support me with, we'll be able to secure the border from the Gulf of Mexico all the way to El Paso. Let me just respond. Sir, The 2003 the 2005 in-state tuition reduced the benefits for illegal aliens. What it did was, if you were a citizen...
I'm sorry, Lieutenant Governor, I actually got to stop you there. Senator Patrick, rebuttal.
Thank you. By the way, it was 2003, the health care, in 2005, and it expanded in-state tuition, Governor. Everybody who analyzed the bill knows it. In terms of, can I read a bill? He appointed me to Chairman of Education, Higher Education, on Finance, Transportation, Criminal Justice, Sunset, and Redistricting. I had the toughest work schedule, which I love to work. I'm a workaholic, of almost any senator. And he gave me those assignments because he knew he could count on me to get the job done. I missed 6 or 8 votes out of 16,000. I missed 1 day out of 650. I show up for work. I know how to read a bill. I know how to get the job done. And we can secure the border, Aurora, and I will do it. And I keep hearing this word surge. I want to remind you folks, it should be 365, 24/7. That's how we secure the border. We can't do it 100%, but instead of catching 20%, we need to catch 80% who cross. And then Washington will act, and then we'll have legal immigration
Senator
reform.
Patrick, thanks very much. Governor Dewhurst, 30 seconds.
I'm afraid maybe it was because you weren't in the military, but a surge is just that. We'll be able to 24/7, 365 days a year, secure the border, not touching our international bridges, still having trade. But I'm going to drive this point home. Ladies and gentlemen, he is not telling you the truth. In 2005, I've read that bill carefully then and now. That bill reduces benefits for those that are not here legally, and the 2003 bill just simply does not give more benefits. It says...
All right, Lieutenant Governor, I'm sorry, we're out of time with that question. We're just trying to keep us on time.
Sure.
Let's go back to KPRC's Mary Benton. Mary?
Senator Patrick, lawmakers, as you know, last session established stricter rules which essentially shut down about 1/3 of Texas clinics providing women's health services, including abortions. The move put such services effectively out of reach for some women in rural areas of Texas. What do you say to those women, and what will you do to help them get their health needs met, including abortions, if they so choose?
Well, Mary, one of the big myths is that Planned Parenthood actually cares about women. They care about making money through abortions. And the services that they claim that they provided, in almost all cases, they didn't provide. They did very minor work. You have to understand, Planned Parenthood is in the business of taking babies' lives and making a profit. And I'm proud that we passed the sonogram bill, and I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's help on that. I wrote it in 2007. We passed the Senate, didn't make it through the House. I wrote it again in 2009, passed the Senate, didn't make it in the House. And in 2011, because I actually share credit and don't blame everyone, I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor's help on that bill. And I've said that many times, and you know that, Governor. I've said I appreciate your help on that bill. That bill will save about 15,000 lives this year alone. In turning money away from Planned Parenthood, we're going to save lives, Mary. And there will be real doctors who care about women, who will provide real services. I don't care if every Planned Parenthood clinic in America goes out of business. In fact, that would be a great goal. More babies would live, and women would get great health care from doctors who actually care about them.
All right, Lieutenant Governor.
In the defunding of Planned Parenthood, there was still the revenue coming in to go ahead and provide for health care, not abortions, but for health care. That leads us to what we did this past year on a very important pro-life bill. I'm proud of what we did on that bill. We stood up. By the time the bill came back a day too late from the House, we were down to the last day of the session. And the governor's office had made it very clear, you either pass the bill this day or we're not going to call you back. In fact, the words were, you live or die today. Now, my opponent has said publicly that he would not have brought the bill up. But I guess I'm a fighter. I brought the bill up. We passed it. It's law. We've saved lives.
All right.
And we've improved women's health.
Senator Patrick, 30 seconds.
Well, the filibuster, let's get it clear. The reason the bill came back from the House is when we sent it over, it was a 3-part bill. The Lieutenant Governor asked Senator Glenn Hager to take out of the bill the provision to save life at 5 months. That's the truth. When the bill went over, the House put it back in, sending it back to the Senate. That created the filibuster. And the reason I wouldn't have brought it up is because there wouldn't have been a filibuster. And Governor Perry would have called us back. He's the most pro-life governor in the history of this country. He would have called us back and we would have passed it. And we wouldn't have Wendy Davis as a rock star today and Texas with a target on our back by millionaires from the East Coast and California who want to take our state for Democrats.
Next we go to Joe Hawley from the Houston Chronicle with the next question.
Governor Dewhurst, Houston Mayor Anise Parker recently introduced an equal rights ordinance. It's a proposal that would widen protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity. There have been several recent polls that show Texans are growing more supportive of LGBT issues, including same-sex marriage. So if legislators were to overturn the state's ban on same-sex marriage while you're in office, would you fight that?
Yes, I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I had pushed for the Defense of Marriage Act as the first month I came into the legislature in 2003. I had pushed the next year in 2005 to put it into the state constitution, so our constitution would have to be amended. I understand the mayor's position. I happen to disagree. I think a marriage should be between a man and a woman, and so I would oppose that. I will go back, though, and I don't want to go back and forth today, but ladies and gentlemen, go contact Senator Glenn Hager. Go contact him, and you'll see what a shameful demonstration this man does. I did not. The senators, there were several, we couldn't get a majority. He was in the room. And Glenn Hager said, look, I'm going to take the responsibility. I'm going to go and work with the House. We're going to get the 6 months to 5 months put back in the bill so that we can move forward. And I didn't have a chance to address it earlier. All I'm saying is, Dan, you got to either read the bills or tell the truth, because the 2005 bill, it reduced benefits for illegals. It increased benefits for people that were citizens. And the 2003 bill, all it said was that cities which are required to treat people at emergency rooms, could treat them in little clinics and save money. That's what it said.
All right, Senator Patrick.
Amazing. Let's go back to the Senator Hager issue. On the day of the filibuster, the Lieutenant Governor came into our caucus, and of the 19 Republicans, there were a few who didn't want to vote for the bill. That's the truth. But they voted for the bill in the end when it came back. And as Lieutenant Governor, as a leader, you say to the Republican senators, look, we're not going to take out the ban on abortion at 20 months. We're not going to 20 weeks. We're not going to do that, because if we do, it will go to the House and come back, and the Democrats will filibuster it. As Lieutenant Governor, I would not have allowed 4 Republican senators to stop that bill going out. Had it gone out complete, the House would have passed it, sent it to the governor, it would have been signed, no filibuster. And Glenn Hager did an incredible job of carrying that bill, and he didn't want to take that out of the bill, but he did what the Lieutenant Governor wanted him to do.
30 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, just simply call Senator Glenn Hager. Simply call Elizabeth Graham, who heads up the Texas Right to Life. Ask them if what Senator Patrick is saying is truthful. They'll tell you it's not. And then you can make up your mind about all the other things he is saying. This man is divorced from reality. That's why the senators cannot rely on what he says. That's why I made a mistake in appointing him as chair of the Senate Education Committee.
We have to wrap you up there, Lieutenant Governor. Let's go next to La Voz de Houston's Aurora Lozada for the next question.
Senator Patrick.
Yes, ma'am.
You are a strong advocate of charter schools.
Yes, ma'am.
And a bill you authored passed last session will add more such schools in the next 6 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Recently, a major charter school system in Texas, Responsive Education Solutions, acknowledged they had been teaching creationism in class. Why should charter schools, which do receive taxpayer dollars, be allowed to teach creationism when courts have ruled traditional public schools cannot?
Aurora, I'll answer your question. Here's one fact on this last issue. All you have to do, folks, is look at the bill that went out of the Senate, the pro-life bill.
I'm sorry, Senator Patrick, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. Senator Patrick, I'm sorry. I'm going to do just the same thing I did with the Lieutenant Governor. Answer Aurora's question first, and then if you have time remaining,
that's a good idea. I will do that. Aurora, in terms of charter schools, we need more choice in our schools. Charters is a great choice. We have 100,000 children and families on the wait list for charters. Remember I said earlier we have 40 to 50% dropout rate in some of our inner city schools. We have a dismal performance rate in many of our inner cities. And parents are looking for hope. They don't want to be forced to send their child to a failing school because that's in their zip code. And charter schools work. Now, is every charter school doing exactly what they should every day? Maybe not. But neither is every public school, Aurora. And so if there are things that have to be addressed, and it can be addressed. Personally, I believe in the teaching of creationism. I've always been confused. We take our kids to Sunday school. We take them to church and we teach them about Jesus Christ and God, and then we send them to school on Monday and say, can't learn about that in school. And we wonder why our students are a little confused. Now to this question, I'll get back, Craig, thank you. And that is very simply this, folks. You want to see us telling the truth? Look at the bill when it went out of the Senate. It did not have the ban on abortion at 20 weeks. It didn't have it in it. You can get any detail, any background you want. Look at what the bill was. It didn't have it in it. As Lieutenant Governor, that bill would have gone out of the Senate. If I had been Lieutenant Governor with the ban on abortion, the House would have passed it. The governor would have signed it.
And I've got to wrap you up there, Lieutenant Governor, 45 seconds.
Well, it seems like this evening, maybe the only thing I'm going to agree with Dan Patrick about is that I believe in creationism too. I understand that the courts have taken the position that they have, but I'm in favor of having it introduced into schools, and so that at least you're having a balanced approach, that students are learning creationism as well as evolution, and then leave it up to them and their parents what they should believe. You know, on this whole question about charter schools, I noticed that Wendy Davis congratulated Dan for helping to negotiate an agreement on that with the Democrats. And at some point I want to come back to a parental trigger.
All right, Senator Patrick, 30 seconds.
You know what, folks? The Lieutenant Governor has appointed half the Democrats to committee chairman. And for him to sit here and say, we should never work with them, I will not appoint half the Democrats to committee chairman. That's too much power. But you still work and respect the other side. And the fact is, I passed the charter bill 30-1. I'm proud of that out of the Senate. We passed HB 5, which reduced STAR tests and put more career pathways. We passed that bill unanimously. You want a lieutenant governor who doesn't give them power, but can work with the other side to get things done for our conservative agenda, and that's what I'll do.
All right, and I just want to quickly remind our listeners and viewers and our audience here in the studio that the reason I'm seemingly so fixated on time limits is these are the agreed upon rules both campaigns agreed to, so that's why I'm trying to stick to these times as much and interrupting as often as I am. With that, Mary Benton has the next question.
Excuse me. Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, the candidates for governor, both State Senator Wendy Davis and Attorney General Greg Abbott, have sparked a lively discussion about state funding for pre-kindergarten programs in Texas. Do you believe pre-K is important? And if so, should it be full-time and totally state funded, as Davis advocates, or as Abbott proposes, part-time with funding going to the neediest?
I think that we have disparities around the state in the development of our children. And at the end of the day, that the most development that we can provide for young students in pre-K, I think the best. You've got a number of different school districts around the state that fund pre-K. Others don't. And so I've asked that we take a hard look at what the cost would be and what the outcomes would be in funding pre-K for all students. We've got to put this in the context of what our budget's going to be. We should have a surplus. We should be able to do this, but we're looking at our budget considerations right now. Now, on the whole question about education, it is so important. I'm a product of public schools. Many of you, I'm sure, are products of our public schools. One of the things that when Senator Patrick couldn't get the votes to pass out a school choice bill, I went ahead and I worked on coming up with a parental trigger. We passed it out of the Senate. This is a good bill, and Dan helped me on it. And this bill says let's parents choose on the second anniversary, the third anniversary. If the school is failing, they can fire the school district and bring in a high-performing school district or a charter.
All right. Senator Patrick?
And I'll try to stay on time. You're doing a great job. Sorry. First of all, as Lieutenant Governor, I'm going to do something else that's going to be different. Besides not appointing half the Democrats to be chairman of committees and run the Senate, I'm not going to take credit for other people's work, but I'll take responsibility when things don't happen. The senators pass the bills. They do the work. And the Lieutenant Governor is there to lead and help them get the votes when they're tough votes. And I've always appreciated the Lieutenant Governor's help. But as Lieutenant Governor, I'm not going to take the credit from other people, and I'm not going to shift the blame to others. If things don't happen, if I don't secure the border, lower your property taxes, pass school choice, campus carry, fund and make it a priority for water and transportation, it'll be on me. It won't be on anyone else. I'm going to be accountable and I'll be responsible. And I want to talk about pre-K because that deserves a 5-minute answer, Mary, and I hope I get a chance to come back to it. But
All
it's
right,
a very
I'm afraid
important
we're out
issue.
of time at this point for your rebuttal. We'll go next to Lieutenant Governor with 30-second close.
Dan, I'll make this real quick. Again, we had more than four senators who were against moving the abortion bill from 6 months to 5 months. Dan, you're going to have to start telling the truth. That has gotten you in a lot of trouble in your life over the last 20 years, and it's getting you in trouble in politics.
All right.
Tell the truth.
Joe Hawley has the next question.
Senator Patrick, you campaign as a fiscal conservative, but in your past you declared bankruptcy and had to pay back taxes. Why should hardworking Texas families and voters trust you to be fiscally responsible with their tax dollars?
Great question, John. I think most people are aware of that. They've seen $2 million worth of ads attacking me for it. In the 1980s, a lot of people went broke, including the Lieutenant Governor who declared bankruptcy in 1982. And while he came out of it, and it was okay that you did, he still didn't pay his unsecured creditors. And the Lieutenant Governor was sued by River Oaks Bank because he refused to pay an $800,000 loan. He went to court, and the courts made him pay that back. And so the Lieutenant Governor's had some problems too, Joe, as I had. But he's built a successful business, and I congratulate him for that. In the 80s, a lot of us, this was a tough time. And so I went broke in the 80s, and there were some taxes that were due. The businesses went broke. But my wife and I, a school teacher, and myself, and I wasn't making much money then, we paid all those taxes. And what he's talking about in all those commercials happened when I was 35. I'm 64. I'm a successful businessman. I pulled myself up with the help of others from my own bootstraps. I don't owe any taxes. There are no tax liens. All those things, Joe, were back from 1985. And I learned from those lessons. You learn from your failures. Am I a person who's made mistakes? Yes. Am I perfect? No. But I serve a perfect Savior. And that gives me peace every day, Joe. I'm proud of what I've accomplished in life. And everything you've seen in these ads has been nothing but lies, distortions, and half-truths. Like I said, he has his own financial background. I haven't made it an issue. I'm not going to make it an issue. But since he's made a $1 million attack a week, at least people should know he had some problems too. And you know what? He's a pretty smart guy, and he worked his way out of it like I did.
All right, Lieutenant Governor.
No comparison. I've never had a personal bankruptcy. I've never stiffed creditors for $800,000 and had 28 tax liens on me. I was what you're talking about, I was a shareholder, not even a majority shareholder of a company. Yes, when the banks put us into a Chapter 11, yeah, there was a bankruptcy, but it wasn't a personal bankruptcy, and we had just about as many assets to pay the liabilities. But I wanted to make sure that everybody got paid. So I paid the $832,000 out of my own pocket for the bank loan, and I paid all the other secured creditors. I pay my bills, Dan.
All right, Senator Patrick.
Well, you don't pay all your bills. You owe $1.4 million from your last Senate campaign. And just this week, you told the Houston Chronicle that you didn't think you had to pay the one pollster because you weren't happy with his numbers. He didn't lose the race for you, Governor. He just polled the numbers. And secondly, just on this bankruptcy one more time. Folks, I went bankrupt. I don't know what else to tell you. And I took the responsibility out of my pocket, working and my wife for a few years, to pay all those bills that those businesses owed. And the creditors, it was all dealt with in the courts. Everything I had was dispersed to creditors, and we move forward. And, and all he does is attack on personal issues and not talk
Senator,
public policy.
Our next question is from La Voz de Houston's Aurora Lozada.
Lieutenant Governor, oil and gas exploration is booming and driving the economy across the state. Some believe, though, that Texas should diversify its economy. And concerns continue to be raised about fracking and horizontal drilling and the long-term environmental impact. Do we need to invest more in alternative energy to diversify and minimize environmental effects? And if so, what alternative energies?
You know, I would encourage you to talk with Scott Tinker, who's the state geologist, and he will walk you through the analysis by the state of Texas on literally hundreds of thousands of wells which have been drilled. The controversy on fracking is a well-intended, I'm sure, but it has no basis. I don't know if I can do this with a TV, but if this is ground level and your water table is below, the rules in the railroad commissioner, as long as you drive your casing down below the groundwater level and you have a good cement job, there's no possibility that you're going to have any contamination into your water level. Most of our wells today are 5,000 and 9,000 feet. If there was something that came out of the, not fracking, but one of the chemicals, it would only take 100,000 years to get to the surface, and it would be potable water, drinkable water. So I do not see a problem at all. And I've looked at this, but I must tell you, I've been in the oil and gas industry, and so I may be a little prejudiced on this, but that's because we've always tried to carefully follow all of the environmental protections.
All right, Senator Patrick?
Oil and gas exploration, drilling, it's the backbone of our country. It's the backbone of this state. We need a lieutenant governor who's going to work to fight the EPA at every turn. I'm not worried about fracking. What I'm worried about is President Obama trying to stop it, or another Democrat president trying to stop it. The oil and gas industry is the reason our economy is booming. I'm proud that former Speaker Tom Craddock has endorsed me. He's from Midland, Odessa, the heart of the oil country out west, and the vast majority of the oil and gas producers there. I'm proud of that. In fact, I'm proud that 26 conservative House members have endorsed me. None have endorsed Lieutenant Governor. And 7 senators, or would-be senators, are working hard for me. Folks across this state, the majority, 90% of Tea Party groups,
all right, Senator Patrick,
people in West
you're out of
Texas
time.
and East Texas.
I'm going to go back to the Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you.
30 seconds.
Well, that's kind of hard to do when there's at least 1,000 of those same people that have endorsed me. Texoga, the Texas Oil and Gas Association, endorsed me, not endorsed you. I don't know how you, I don't know how you come up with your numbers. But when you were talking about the U.S. Senate race, let me just remind you, Senator and ladies and gentlemen, that I've already invested over $1.1 million into that campaign to pay bills and to create the legal basis for the restitution, so everybody gets paid. I pay my bills.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you. That concludes the panelist rounds, and we have enough time for just a couple more questions. So for this round, I will ask individual questions of each candidate. You will have 45 seconds to respond. There will be no rebuttal in this round. Senator Patrick, from gun rights to land use disputes and beyond, there are times when state policies are in direct conflict with those of the federal government. When courts rule in Washington's favor, some passionate Texans argue we should defy such rulings, nullify them. Some of these folks may be ardent supporters of yours. How do you serve the law and also satisfy these constituents?
First of all, you follow the Constitution, Craig, and you represent what's in the best interest of Texas. And you fight the government at every turn. An example would be the TSA bill that I had on the floor in 2011, I guess it was. They came down, met me in the back hall, and they said, Senator Patrick, if you pass this bill, which would have allowed our law enforcement to literally arrest some TSA that would grope you in a way that would get them arrested on the street corner, they said, if you pass this bill, we may close down every airport I didn't blink an eye, and I said, well, it's your call. I'm going out to pass this bill. And we did, the Lieutenant Governor and I, we did pass that bill in the end of the special session. So, Craig, you just stand for the Constitution, you stand for liberty, and you fight the federal government at every turn.
All right. Lieutenant Governor, Governor Perry turned down funding for Medicaid expansion despite the fact that Washington would be covering 100% of the cost the first 3 years, 90% thereafter. Knowing the number of uninsured Texans who would benefit from Medicaid expansion, would you be willing to work with Washington to develop a customized approach?
No. I was involved in all of the conversations on Obamacare. I think Obamacare is, forget the rhetoric, it doesn't work. We've just seen it doesn't work. That's why over the last 6 years, I've been working to develop free market reforms, free market alternatives to Obamacare. My wife, who's sitting right over here, her father's a prominent doctor. Her brother's a prominent doctor. I've worked with them, countless doctors, on coming up with free market reforms. I'm a free market guy. Get government out of the way. And those reforms, according to Senate Bill 7, will provide incentives for better practices and better outcomes.
Got to wrap you up, Senator Patrick. We may at times disagree about what to spend money on, but roads, bridges, water infrastructure all can only last so long without repair or expansion. If there should be political will to fund one project, but you need to fund more than one, two or more, how do you prioritize?
Well, you know, I like local control. I believe in local control, whether it's in education, which is really parent control of where they send their children to school. The cities and counties decide on the road projects and the water projects that they need. You know, we haven't had a question on water tonight, and I want to say something on that, Craig. Look, we have some really, we have a tough road ahead if we don't make some hard choices, and one of the choices are free markets. I would like to see people in the agricultural and ranching business who use a lot of water have the opportunity to conserve water, preserve water, invest in better irrigation equipment so they can conserve water, and then be able to sell it to our cities who need water. And we need to get our permitting agency in the state out of their way and let the free markets, and it's one way we can address our water issue. And we just need to have a free market principle
wrap you up there.
in creating water.
Lieutenant Governor, does the state have a responsibility to protect its citizens, including other drivers on the road, against the dangers of texting while driving?
You know, we all know that accidents occur when people are texting. At the same time, I think there's a good reason why Governor Perry had vetoed that bill, and I think he did the right thing. This is, you know, we all understand that we've got to wear seat belts, and we are all trained to wear seat belts, but at the same time, we really shouldn't be texting because you cannot pay attention. But I think this is going one step too far. Let me go back. The senator just talked about water. I helped write the water bill. We got a really good bill. We have a really good bill that will provide the water we need over the next 50 years. And that took a lot of effort, and I'm proud of that.
Wrap you up, and I apologize, but we now need to get to closing statements, and we have 90 seconds each. We'll go first with Dan Patrick.
Thank you. And thank you, panel. Great questions tonight. Great job, Craig. Folks, I said at the beginning I'm a bold movement conservative. I'm proud to be the chairman and the founder of the Tea Party Caucus. A lot of times people ask me, what are Tea Partiers all about? I think they're the people who are going to save our nation. They believe in America, and they believe in the Constitution. They believe in Texas. They believe in free markets. They believe in school choice. They believe in liberty and the God that gave us that liberty. They believe in those inalienable rights that our founders got right come not from government, but from God. If you believe in all those things, welcome to the grassroots movement. We're taking Texas and we're taking America. We believe in efficient and smart government. After all, every dollar we spend comes from you, not from government. A lot of senators ask me, Dan, why are you running for Lieutenant Governor? You could be senator the rest of your life. You're popular. You've done a good job. And I said, I don't want to be senator for the rest of my life. I'm now in my 60s. I don't want to be in my 80s and look back and say, one day I believe that I had a better vision, a conservative vision, and I had more passion and energy to do the job than the Lieutenant Governor. And I appreciate his public service, and he's done some good things. The question was, did I have the courage to take on someone worth $200 or $300 million who has a history of doing nothing but attacking his opponents and not talking public policy? It's not easy, but we're withstanding it. God's given us grace and peace. I need your vote. We won the first round, but we need to win the second round, and we can't do it unless you turn out to vote. Thank you for the opportunity. I will be a bold, no-nonsense leader, And I'll be a Republican like kind of Harry Reid is in the U.S. Senate. I'll get our job done for our side like he tries to get done for their side.
And Lieutenant Governor, 90 seconds.
We're running a campaign of truth. We're telling the truth on David Dewhurst, and we're telling the truth on Dan Patrick as it appears on TV, as it appears in the newspapers. That's why everything we say is documented. Dan has a reputation in the Senate of being a whiner. He's a victim. And so that's why he's saying everything that we're saying is not true. It is true. He's even saying, he's been attacking me, saying untrue things, that I'm for increasing benefits for illegal aliens. Completely false. He's been attacking on. Go to realdanpatrick.com. Please go to realdanpatrick.com. You'll see he's not telling the truth on the budget. You'll see he's not telling the truth on all these issues. Go call Elizabeth Graham, Glenn Hager, and ask them about the bills, because this affects. I think what the people of Texas want is someone that'll tell the truth, that you can depend on them. You want someone with ability. Ladies and gentlemen, I've shown you over the years that I have the ability to help grow this economy and work with the senators and the House members in good times and in bad times. You want someone that has integrity. You can believe what they're saying. And you need someone with a vision. I want to see the state. It's hard to get to be number one. It's even harder to stay number one. I'm asking for your vote and your prayers as we move forward.
There. We are out of time. Thank you, candidates, and thank you for watching. I'm Craig Cohen. Good night.